Hey everyone, welcome to Locked on Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers get a crucial win over the Clippers on Sunday. What does it mean for Darvin Ham's job security? We'll tell you next.
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked on Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, this one's always going to be free and never locked behind a paywall where it requires your hard-earned money to access. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 22,000 subscribers, all of whom are breathing a sigh of relief, unless you are one of those people who wanted the Lakers to get throttled tonight so Darvin might get fired, in which case you're angry that the Lakers won. 106-103 Sunday night, a critical win against the Clippers. Plenty to talk about, Andy, including the Darvin Ham question, the issue of his job security, and where things stand there. D'Angelo Russell gets back into the lineup with an impact that was very easy to see. A good team win. Do want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Andy, to say the least, this was a badly needed victory.
Yeah, Darvin said after the game, and as you noted, Darvin is still the coach of this team. He said that the pregame message before tonight was just everyone lock in and do your job. Like, as long as everybody does their job to the best of their ability, whether you're talking about players, whether you're talking about coaches, whether you're talking about all the people surrounding this team. You know, Giannis recently put, the equipment
guy.
Right. Everybody plays a role. And Darvin's message was, as long as everybody does their job to the best of their ability, doesn't try to do anything more than just your job to the best of your ability, good things are going to happen. And if nothing else, I thought that message seemed to be heard, which is something we've questioned with Darvin of late in terms of just, do his words still have an impact with the players in the locker room? But also it felt apropos because I thought this was a really great team win. I thought everybody who stepped on the court tonight for the Lakers had good moments. Like, everybody chipped in and everybody mattered.
I think to your point about whether or not like Darvin's words were heard and all that, I don't know. I don't know how much they internalized that particular message or whatever. I will say this though, the Clippers got out to a very quick lead in this game. And if the Lakers wanted to make the statement that they were tired of Darvin Ham, and they did not want to play for him anymore, they could have done it in this game. They were down 16-7 after a Kawhi three-pointer at the 6:16 mark. And it looked like the Clippers were going to run them out of the building. And at that point, if the goal was to make it clear that this team doesn't want to play for Ham anymore, this is where it would have happened. This game here, this moment in this game. And the Lakers instead went the other way. They played a very good defensive game overall. They held the Clippers to under 40%. And Andy, they had to do it in a way that was incredibly physical because the offense, while it was improved with D'Angelo Russell back in the lineup, and we'll get to that in a minute here, it was not exactly the Showtime Lakers in terms of elegance and points and things like that. It was a grinding, difficult win on both sides of the ball.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm not sure this offense is ever going to be truly elegant. Like, there are times when I think things are executed okay and shots either fall or they don't fall. And
it's make or miss league, Andy.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of cliches that to some degree are true. I mean, it was interesting when I was watching the post-game coverage as we were getting ready to set up. They had Spectrum Sportsnet, the Lakers TV partner, had a commercial for a show that they do called Access Lakers, and they'll show a lot of behind the scenes stuff in it. And one of the clips that they showed was a coaches meeting, and Darvin and Phil Handy talking about what you and I have talked about a lot over the course of this season. They need to get into their sets quicker, and the longer their sets take to turn into, I don't know, anything, generally speaking, the worse they end up looking, regardless of whether they end in a basket or not. And this is a team that still at times will take a long while to turn into something that feels tangible. But in the meantime, though, I thought, as you noted, and we'll get into, things grew exponentially more fluid just by virtue of having D'Lo there and another guy that can both run the offense and provide a legitimate source of scoring. And in the meantime, their defense, particularly in the third quarter, which is where this game turned, their defense was incredibly disruptive against the Clippers. They turned the Clippers over 8 times in the first quarter. And these were not unlike the Lakers in the first quarter, where, stop me if you've heard this before, they've turned the ball over a lot. The Clippers did not have a lot of unforced turnovers. This was the Lakers really. No,
the Lakers played really strong defense. This was, the Miami game, for example, was one in which, the Heat were really trying to oblige the Lakers and keep them in that ball game.
That was a game that if you wanted to read into things and say the Lakers were trying to get Darvin fired, because like Memphis, I don't think Memphis did not feel to me at all like they were.
No, they were playing. Trying. They played hard in that game.
Right. And for a while they played well or well enough. They just collapsed down the stretch. Miami was a game where it felt like, yoo-hoo, Phil, yoo-hoo, Chris Gent, hello, Doc. Like it really felt like they were trying to get Darvin the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were. I'm just saying
no, but like that's the type of game you play when you want to get
if you want to read into things and wildly, perhaps irresponsibly speculate. Miami gave you all the fodder you wanted.
There be a game down the road where the Lakers are trying as a team, the players are trying to get Darvin fired, it might be indistinguishable from the Miami game. It would be hard to, in fact, the Miami game might have ruined their fire Darvin game because it's just going to look like what they did against Miami, because it's hard to do it where you say, you know what, we're going to turn the ball over. How many times should we turn the ball over? 10? 10's a lot. Oh, guys, we already did that.
Yeah. I mean, you only get so many possessions per quarter.
Right. Where they are is a tricky place, because this was a badly needed win, an important one for the standings, and a really important one for vibes. If you are a believer in vibes, and it has the opportunity to turn into a 2-game win streak with a sub 500 Raptors team coming into town on Tuesday, and then Thursday it's a Suns team that has not been particularly good on the road and just hasn't been that good in fourth quarters. Frankly, the Lakers have performed pretty well against. But let's get into the individual contributions, not just of LeBron, who had some statement plays, and Anthony Davis, who was very strong defensively, I thought in particular. But the return of D'Angelo Russell, the play of Christian Wood, contributions from Max Christie used, I thought, in a smart way. All that stuff next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. And years ago, I went with some friends to go see LL Cool J at the old House of Blues in LA. Had no idea how to get tickets. It was really last minute. So we went to a scalper, and he sold us fake tickets. And only through some random, totally unrepeatable luck were we able to get into the show. But I vowed after that experience, never again. And you don't have to, because Game Time, I love them. The fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets, start getting hyped for the fun. The Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row or less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It is the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So snag the tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
We'll get to D'Lo here. We'll get to D'Lo here in a second, as well as Wood. LeBron came out very similar to how he did against Memphis, trying to set a tone early. I thought he did a much better job with setting a tone defensively, not just offensively. He was much better on both sides of the ball. But some of the plays, the dunk, for example, in the first half.
There's a great picture that I retweeted at Cam Brothers. You can find it from us, where you see James Harden's reaction behind LeBron as LeBron's in the air, and it's basically just Harden going, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
like whoa.
But I mentioned this not just because.
By the way, Taurean Prince after the game said that he was the one who told LeBron to dunk there. So if you're looking for credit,
yes.
Well, Taurean's a vet.
He is. No, I didn't realize that LeBron needed that type of guidance. But I mean, he took off like a step and a half in front of the free throw line. I mean, and I mean, that's like pretty good for anybody. It's really good again at age 39. There's a big difference in the Lakers offense. So I bring this up not just to talk about kind of a rebound game for LeBron, who wasn't great against Memphis, and particularly wasn't great late against Memphis. There's a huge difference.
And he was not good against Miami either.
Right. Nobody was.
He was the conductor of the disinterested train.
Yes. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, but critically 11 of 19 from three-point range, 11 of 19 from the floor, and only took 3 threes, which I actually think is a good thing. There are times when LeBron is hot from downtown and he can take a few, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 3-pointers from LeBron is too many. This game, he was doing his damage inside the arc, and the efficiency was much better. You get 11 of 19 from LeBron, 10 of 15 from Anthony Davis in a game. Like, shot 50%, over 50%, in a game where possessions were precious. 106, 103, that type of efficiency from the Lakers stars, it kind of has to be there.
Yeah, it's super important. The Lakers, especially because they turned the ball over 19 times. I mean, they did not. I thought they played a good game tonight against the Clippers. I don't think it was obviously flawless by any stretch, and the 19 turnovers stand out a lot.
Right,
but
missed 11. Only made 11 of 16 free throws, and 16 is not a great number.
No,
so
no, it actually took them a long time before they even got to the line in this game. And in the first half, I think they shot. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they shot fewer than 5 free throws in the first half. Like it took quite a while before they finally got up there. And on top of it, this is one of the big problems they had in the first half of the game. They kept sending the Clippers to the line.
Yes.
And in particular, sending them to the line on 3-point attempts. So doubling the problem. But again, the defense in this game, I thought collectively was just really, really strong. LeBron mentioned after the game that he thought they really did a good job communicating a lot of their schemes and just executing. But like, for example, Cam Reddish, who other than 2 very big threes, his offense was downright ugly at times. Like he has no business turning the ball over 5 times. Like he does not have enough offensive responsibility to turn the ball over 5 times. But defensively, I thought he did a really nice job against James Harden. Like he was often really disruptive. I thought he did a really good job of just preventing Harden from actually being able to run the offense.
Yeah, like get the ball back. If he passes, getting it back.
Right. Sometimes it was Prince switched onto him as well, but Reddish was the primary guy doing this, particularly when they started getting the Clippers out of sorts in the second half. And again, people are going to look at his stat line and rightly say it was ugly, but Reddish deserves notice for that.
Well, it's funny because like you mentioned the 5 turnovers, like at least 3 of them were right after doing something cool defensively.
I know.
You made a great defensive play, and bleep it up. And like, it just, you did the thing, give someone else the ball, but like this is the difference between Christie and, we've talked about this a lot, and Max Christie played a nice game, I thought. He is much better when the Lakers do not ask Christie to be a secondary ball handler and initiate the offense, is when he runs into a tremendous amount of trouble. He did a nice job of that in the summer league. This is not the summer league. But when he's asked to be a spot up shooter, a catch and shoot guy, make that decision when you catch to either shoot or attack from the corner or whatever it might be. He had a nice finish, dunk finish. He does that much better and with far fewer mistakes than Reddish does. And part of what separates Christie from Reddish isn't so, because you read those numbers last week, it's not so much usage or raw percentages or whatever. It's literally the choice they make to take a shot or not take a shot, to attack or not attack. When Reddish decides to attack from the corner, it is almost always ends in disaster. And yet he keeps doing it. And so, I mean, Darvin's got his minutes much closer to 20 a night now. That could go down a little bit more when Rui is finally able to play again. 10 to 15, 10 to 20, whatever it is, depending on the matchup for Cam, is a much more comfortable place, I think, for him and the Lakers to be than 25 to 30 or over 30 a night. That is way too much Cam Reddish.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, too, Christian Wood, really strong game. 9 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks off the bench. It's flown under the radar because of all the just disaster that's been hitting this team over the last month or so. But Christian Wood, since re-entering the rotation, has played very well and seems much more comfortable in what's being asked of him. I also, someone pointed this out to me on Twitter, and I don't remember who, but it was a good observation. He seems like he might actually be better conditioned now at this point than he was earlier in the season. And then just to make sure we get it mentioned, because I know we're going to end up talking some about Darvin and what this game could mean for him. Having D'Lo back makes such a difference. Like you mentioned, LeBron's full game. Some of that, I suspect, I mean, I think LeBron recognized the urgency of this game, but some of it has to do with D'Lo back, you now have a third guy who can initiate the offense, who can run things, who can actually provide scoring opportunities, which makes it so LeBron does less of it. LeBron can actually sit a little bit more if you need him to. Like there's just less for him to do essentially 24/7 in a game.
And on a night like Sunday where Reeves is not having a particularly strong game, the Clippers bottled him up pretty good. He finished with 8 points, 2 of 5 from the floor, missed all 3 of his threes, only had 2 assists.
He also left a couple shooters way too open.
Yeah, I mean, just he's
which is a habit of Reeves, is that he needs to break.
It wasn't a good game. Was not a good game for Reeves. With Russell there, who played 31 minutes, in his comeback, it's like, look, you look at the counting stats and you might not be impressed. 5 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 9 from 3-point range, finished with 13 points.
It was a tale of two halves for him. The second half, D'Lo he made some big shots down the stretch, and
Russell missed his first, I want to say, 4 shots. So it's like, he hit a couple really critical threes in the second half. But if you're just like stuck on the shot making, but his influence on the ability for the team to generate better offense, to generate clean looks, whether for himself or really for his teammates, the ease with which he is able to do that compared to Reeves is still pretty stark. And so you really need both of those guys.
Yeah.
And you really need Russell around for a night when Reeves is struggling. So let's talk a little bit about Darvin, where you feel like things were coming in, where you think things might be coming out of this game, and what you might think comes through the rest of the month. All that next. Locked
On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel and the NFL Regular season just wrapped up. The playoffs are starting up. They look like they're going to be some awesome matchups, but there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. And that's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the app's really easy to use. There are many different ways to bet, like the live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find the popular parlays. And of course, NBA options as well. As of this recording, the Lakers are 29-1 to win the title. LeBron and AD both 100-1 to win MVP. Anthony Davis 9.5-1 for Defensive Player of the Year, and Austin Reeves 6.5-1 for Sixth Man of the Year. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup.
So the general consensus, we had the report last week of disconnect. This from The Athletic and Jovan and Shams talking about disconnect between Darvin and the locker room. The Lakers responded to the disconnect with the Miami game and then losing to Memphis. A complete and epic collapse in the fourth quarter. This was a game that, it seemed by most accounts and reports was not a make or break game for Darvin, but a disaster, a blowout. When the Clippers are up 16-7, if they just run away with this game in the first quarter and it's never close, that could be the thing that kicks stuff into motion in terms of replacing Darvin. Instead, they win the game. And they do so with, a really good defensive performance, a lot of hard work. I think for the most part, a coherent rotation that made sense. Reeves back in the starting lineup, if that's something that's important to people. What do you make of, because we didn't get to talk about it on Friday because you were working, you were doing radio for ESPN LA. What do you make of the state of Darvin Ham right now?
I mean, look, if you listen to Darvin, he says that he has the full backing of Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss to the best of his knowledge. And as long as those guys are in his corner, he's not going to worry about anything. And look, for what it's worth, Friday before the game, because I was in the building, I saw Darvin and Pelinka having a pregame discussion, sitting courtside near where the Lakers were doing their warm up. And, I'm not a body language expert but it didn't look particularly tense or hostile. I try to read lips. I did not see "you're fired" at any point ever come up.
Wasn't giving the wagging finger of disapproval.
Right. But look, the truth is, the last few weeks, and it's particularly over the last few games, tonight notwithstanding, it did seem like the players were kind of disconnected from Darvin. There were some decisions that, if players did not understand them or were confused by them or weren't buying into them, it would be easy to understand why, because we were questioning a lot of these decisions.
And Darvin's comments, Darvin's performance.
Just about to go there.
Right. In the pre and post game media sessions were not the performance of a guy who's feeling good.
No, if anything, Darvin, who's usually great at this stuff, like he is typically very good at the communication part of this job, seemingly with his players, but definitely with us. And, he typically presents himself very, not just well, but like very confidently and, with the demeanor of somebody who feels very secure in everything that he's doing. The last few pressers, Darvin has seemed like, frankly, somebody kind of coming unglued. The comment that he made after the Grizzlies loss, where he said that I'm tired of people living and dying with each game we play, like intentionally or not, you sound like you're chiding fan enthusiasm. And not to mention too, this is not living and dying by every single game individually. it's not like the Lakers just had a 10-game winning streak snap. They've been regressing. So the idea that people would be getting up in arms about this, frankly, makes sense even before you take into account the Lakers fan base is, I don't care what their national reputation is, one of the most passionate, forgetting the NBA, in sports. They have one of the most passionate fan bases anywhere. And Darvin knows this because he's been in the league and used to be an assistant with the Lakers before now. So comments like that, you're just like, dude, read the room.
It's read the room, but it's also what I found interesting about it was we've talked a lot about context and the difference between the context of last year and the context of this year, and the expectations of last year versus the expectations of this year. And the 2-10 start last year, which was, just like the 2-10 stretcher, you lose 3 of, where they lost 4 in a row, and I think it was 10 of 13, and overall, like, that's the same basic number of wins and losses over a same approximate stretch of games. The difference is that performance then, like last year, it sucked and it was like really unpleasant, but kind of like, we all knew this might be there. This year, it's like, what the heck is that? First of all, you were 5 games over 500 or 4 games over 500, and the playing well. And second of all, that stretch of games in this season is unacceptable. It cannot happen. And what was stunning to me, and I found so interesting, was that Darvin's seemed unable to pivot to any kind of different message that matched the moment that the Lakers are in. And I said it on Saturday. If the message that he said to us in the media after the game about, we're gonna keep our heads down, we're gonna keep working, we got all the just the platitudes. And he said, like, this is what I told the guys in the locker room. I was like, and I said, like, if that's what he told them, then I actually could understand if they've sort of tuned him out, because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again, no matter what the situation is, and independent, like, sort of not understanding the nuance in the moment that you're in. I don't know if it's exactly what he told them because I wasn't in the room. And I don't think that coaches always, Andy, tell us the truth about exactly what. No, they shouldn't at all.
No.
But that I think is where Darvin's got to keep working on. One win doesn't fix it, and not all this stuff is Darvin's fault. But I think to the extent what Darvin can do going forward, starting now again Tuesday against Toronto, then Thursday against Phoenix, is continue to make choices that seem to make sense. Playing Cam Reddish less, finding this sort of rejuvenated role for Christian Wood over Jackson Hayes, which is a really important thing. That balance between LeBron, Reeves, and D'Lo, who's on the floor, making sure you have those guys out there, which, the balance between Reddish and Vanderbilt. If those are sensible, people are always going to be ticked off about something, but if those look sensible, then okay. And you can stay relatively consistent with it, then okay. I think the players will be able to come back in, especially if, Andy, they can actually win a couple games in a row, 4 of 6, 7 of 10, something like that, and just get the bad taste of the last 3.5 weeks out of their mouth.
Well, you asked before, what this night potentially means for Darvin's job security. And look, I don't think he has been on the verge of getting fired. But that being said, though, I do think that if things continued like they had after Miami, after Memphis, both in terms of the losses, but also some of the things that Darvin had been saying, and just this general skid that they could be on, that does not mean that Darvin is the problem. It's always, maybe not always, because there have been times where the coach has clearly been the problem. You can look back on it and say, no, really, that guy was the wrong guy to have there. But for the most part, it's rarely the coach is just the sole problem. But where Darvin, I think, was running into some trouble and where it could cost him his job would be if this kept up much longer in the same way, it would become very clear that at the very least, he was not the solution.
Right.
And this team needs to find a solution now. Right. And
or what helps?
Right.
And what helps and what do you have the ability to change? Because yes, the Lakers can and probably will make some sort of trade in a month or so, before the deadline in early February. But those are hard to control, and there's a lot of time in between when you can pull off that sort of deal.
You still got a week before you could trade Rui or Reeves if you wanted to.
Right. You have to play better in between. You can't just wait for a trade like last year to solve your problem. And you don't want to have a stretch run like you did last year. And it's rarely fair to the coach, like you say, but the thing that is easiest to change is the coach. And sometimes you sacrifice the coach, and that gets the players' attention. The players feel like, okay, now we really have to crank it up. Otherwise, this thing that we kind of left our coach out to dry, but now everybody's gonna be looking at us if we can't fix this. You get some sort of bounce from firing the coach. Sometimes it lasts, sometimes it doesn't. But the coach is almost always the easiest thing to change and the quickest thing to change. And that's not always fair. But if the Lakers had 2 or 3 more of these just awful performances, and it was clear that they were going to compound on each other. None of this, by the way, is good. And I know there is a segment of Laker fans, I'm convinced, that will be annoyed if the Lakers win like 5 out of their next 6 and it takes Darvin off the hot seat. Please don't be that person, because it is a bad thing to have to fire your coach. It is a bad thing to have to change all these things and to lose enough to make that necessary. Much better to handle this stuff in the offseason.
Especially, too, if you are the Lakers, my last thought, and you have been a straight-up coaching carousel since Phil Jackson. Like, the Lakers are, since that season, Phil Jackson's last one, since the 2010-11 season, the Lakers are among the highest in the league for team turnover. They're like top 5 in the league. That's not a good thing.
It isn't. And so sometimes, so it may come to the point where firing Darvin is necessary, but it is not a good thing that you get to that point. And it is better if you can figure out how to fix it with the current coaching staff in place. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, so we can go hang out and see the show. Leave us comments. Perhaps you disagree. You might be a person who thinks they are just better off getting rid of Darvin, and then figure out something else, whether they're winning or losing. And I guess there's an argument to be made for that. But we'd love to hear your comments about it. We have a day to do a show before the game Tuesday night against Toronto, so we can certainly talk about that. We will see everybody tomorrow.